Everybody knows the modern version of Tenerife, but what most people don't realise is that hundreds of years ago, this island was a playground for the absolute ultra-rich. I'm talking 16th century aristocrats who built entire towns just to show off how much money they had. Today, I'm tracking down the island's hidden old money, looking at super mansions. A massive marble tomb built purely out of spite, the historic pirate-proof port that funded it all, and a dizzying 500-step drop down a sheer volcanic cliff face. Let's get into it. The whole of La Orotava is built on the side of a mountain, so it's a bit of a hike.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to regret this later. I think the car park's at the bottom of this hill. Let's just hope that it's full, and then at least I can be vindicated. There's the car park. Loads of spaces. Oh, fuck's sake.
But there is a reason this wealthy town exists all the way up here. After the Spanish conquered the island, they realised that the volcanic soil and the spring water in this specific valley was the perfect place for growing sugar and wine. This place became the economic engine of the island. Back in the 1500s, having these massive intricately carved Canary Island pine balconies and huge internal courtyards was the ultimate status symbol, the colonial equivalent of parking a supercar on your driveway. Today, the government's taken over many of these old palaces, so you can just walk right in and see them. But the biggest display of wealth in this town is a garden, and it comes with a brilliant bit of history.
So the story about these gardens is that the woman that allegedly built them, her son died. He was like a marquis, but because he was a Freemason, the church wouldn't allow him to be buried there. So she built these gardens with a mausoleum at the top overlooking the church. Revenge gardens, basically.
It's a brilliant physical piece of aristocratic spite. She built this massive defiant monument deliberately looking down on the church that rejected her son. They eventually allowed his body to be moved, so the tomb up here is actually empty, but the gardens are still perfectly maintained.
Yeah, if you don't mind a bit of walking up and down hill, it's a beautiful town. Right, excuse my panting. Fuck me. I'm not exaggerating. Made it. My first impressions on arriving were, oh, it's another Brits abroad resort town. However, I've read about it, and it's actually the first tourist destination in the Canary Islands. People have been coming here on holiday for hundreds of years, so there must be something redeeming about it, right? That's what I want to find out. And some of the buildings around here, not least the church, which is quite impressive, but some of the old buildings with the old wooden balconies, they look really good. And then we've got the bananas outlet. So it's actually quite a big place. It stretches quite far down the coast here. So as well as having the natural lava pools, they've also got this massive man-made swimming pool complex. Interestingly, my first impression was, oh, this is another Brits abroad type place. However, I feel like the majority of tourists here are Spanish, which makes sense given its proximity to the North Airport, which predominantly serves inter-island and domestic routes. So the whole complex was designed by César Manrique, the Canary Island artist. It has 7 pools in total, all saltwater, 3 children's pools, restaurants, bars. Yeah, it's a nice looking facility, to be fair. One of the biggest attractions here is Loro Park, which is kind of like a SeaWorld type place, minus the rides. I don't think it has rides. I don't even think it's a water park. I think it's like a wildlife and nature park.
If La Orotava up in the hills was where the elite lived, Puerto de la Cruz was where they actually made their money. Every drop of that highly lucrative wine and sugar that funded those super mansions had to leave through this port.
This thing in itself is very pretty, especially with all the flowers and stuff. But the view is called El Peñón. You've got this sports field here, some Benidorm style tower blocks there, and that's about it. And then behind here, I've got the aptly named Playa Castillo. This looks lovely here, very lush. Another couple of beaches here. The one closest is Playa Chica. It's pretty nice, apart from all the boobs. Always got to watch out for the boobs in Spain. Beware boobs. You can see T-Day almost poking out, just obscured a little bit by cloud. When I was having breakfast this morning on the roof of the hotel, we could see it quite clearly. It just looms over the island. Whose bright idea was it to go walking for 40 minutes in the hottest midday heat? Mine. So this entire complex called Playa Jardin, which includes the beachfront and all the landscaped gardens behind, it was designed with input from César Manrique. Guys had a lot of input. So I'm going to go and check out Punta Brava, which is this little neighbourhood that sticks out here. It is right next to Water Park.
You can really see the contrast in wealth when you walk over to Punta Brava. While the aristocrats were building palaces in the hills, this old fishing neighbourhood was built right into the jagged volcanic rocks, fighting the Atlantic every single day.
They've really used every bit of space. These buildings built right up to the road and right up to the rock behind. That's cute. I like that. Expecting this to be full of little cafes and stuff, given how busy the centre of Puerto de la Cruz is and how close this is to Water Park. It's quite nice that it's chilled. Okay, I quite like Punta Brava. Although most of the properties seem to be holiday homes, it feels a bit more authentic than Puerto de la Cruz. There's some big crabs here. The thing is with crabs, they don't really move a lot. And there seems to be more crab pieces. When they are going to sit out on top of rocks, some of the birds don't start coming for meat. And so there's one on the step here that I've now got to negotiate my way past. Don't try and bite me. Well, they don't bite, do they? They pinch. Still don't want pinched by a crab.
If you really want to understand the brutal geography that these early traders were up against, you have to move further along the northern coast. After all that manicured aristocratic wealth, the coastline brings you right back to reality.
Yeah, I think I've found the best view on the island. This is amazing. It reminds me of Madeira, where you're seeing the huge, lush green cliffs diving into the ocean, like that. The house is just perched on the top. Beautiful.
This is the Mirador de Quinientos Escalones. 500 steps zigzagging straight down a sheer volcanic cliff face. It's a pretty dizzying vertical landscape and a contrast to the quiet gardens we started off in.
Easily the best view in Tenerife, I think. Easily.
So behind me, this weird, what appears to be a weird metal structure. It was actually a crane that they built to lift sand up from the beach way down there. Because it was a prized possession. I don't know why. Sure, they could have got sand from elsewhere, from a more accessible beach, but for whatever reason, they built a crane to lift sand up from the beach. It worked for 4 days, and then it broke, but it's still here. I can see the staircase viewpoint from here. It's in the middle-ish. It was really hard to see on this little screen, but it is there. Just beautiful. I love the Canaries. What a nice place to sit and chill, this actually. It's quiet. From 16th century palaces, Masonic revenge tombs, pirate-proof harbours, and sheer vertical cliffs, making the effort to get away from the sunbeds of the south completely changes your view of this island. The history here is properly strange, and the geography is completely unforgiving. Tenerife is absolutely packed with these extreme contrasts, if you just know where to look. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It really helps. Cheers, see you soon.